The twin suns burned hot over the open-air market of Station City 9, a place full of noise, dust, and aliens of every kind. Traders shouted prices, machines hummed, and children darted between stalls. But no one noticed the thin, hooded figure, moving slowly through the crowd. Her cloak was torn, her boots old, and her body trembling with hunger. She passed baskets of fruit, crates of dry bread, and bubbling alien stew. Her eyes, bright silver with a strange glow, watched everything. Then she saw it. A loaf of dark bread, crusty and warm, left at the corner of a vendor's stall. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten in 4 days. She looked around. No one was watching. Her hand moved fast. She grabbed the loaf and slipped it under her cloak. But a second later, a loud alarm rang out. Beep! 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 The vendor, a thick-skinned alien with 4 arms, turned and roared, "Thief!" The crowd stopped. Everyone turned to look. The woman ran, but only for a moment. 2 security enforcers stepped out of the shadows, tall, armored. Their metal boots hit the ground with heavy thuds. She didn't make it far. One tackled her to the ground. The bread rolled into the dust. The other officer drew a blade. "For theft," he said coldly. "We remove the offending limb." The crowd didn't move. No one spoke. Some turned away. Others watched silently, afraid to interfere. The thief struggled. Her hood slipped down, revealing her face. Smooth violet skin, sharp cheekbones, glowing eyes. An alien, a non-registered species. One of the enforcers raised the blade. She closed her eyes. Then, a voice shouted from the crowd, "Wait, she's with me." Everyone turned. A human man stepped forward. His clothes were dusty, his boots old. A worker, maybe a mechanic, but his eyes were sharp and angry. "I said she's with me," he repeated. The enforcer frowned. "This is not your concern, citizen." "She didn't steal that bread," the man said. "I bought it. She's my guest," the vendor growled. "She took it from my stall." "I sent her to get it for me," the man said. "She doesn't speak your language. That's my fault, not hers." The enforcers hesitated. The rules on the station were harsh, but humans had rights. If the man was telling the truth, hurting her could be a legal problem. The taller enforcer lowered his blade. "Then take responsibility. Feed your guest somewhere else. This isn't a soup line." He kicked the bread toward the man and stepped back. The crowd slowly began to move again. The man helped the woman stand. She looked at him in shock, her eyes wide. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice was soft and rough, like she hadn't used it in days. "Because I hate bullies," he said. He handed her the bread. "Let's go." They walked down side alleys, away from the busy market. Trash blew in the wind. Rusty pipes leaked, steam. The farther they walked, the darker it became. Finally, he opened a small door and waved her inside. It was a one-room apartment, cracked walls, old furniture, but warm. Safe. He motioned to the couch. "Sit." She did, still holding the bread like it might disappear. He poured water from a canister into a cup and handed it to her. "Eat slowly," he said, "or you'll throw it all up." She nodded and took small bites, her hands shaking. The man watched her for a moment before speaking again. "My name's Darren," he said. "I work in scrapyard control." "You?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Zaina." Darren nodded. "Well, Zaina, stealing food in this city is a good way to die." She looked down. "I had no choice." Darren raised an eyebrow. "What happened to you?" Zaina didn't answer, but she pulled her sleeve up just slightly. There were scars, deep ones, and something else. A faint glowing mark under her skin, like a tattoo made of light. Darren stared at it. "What is that?" Zaina quickly covered it. "You don't want to know," she said. That night, Zaina slept on the couch. Darren sat in the corner, half awake, listening. Outside, sirens screamed. Somewhere, someone was being chased. Station City 9 never really slept. But inside this little apartment, an alien woman who had nearly lost her arm for stealing a piece of bread now lay safe and warm, and a human who should have walked away like everyone else had made a choice. He didn't know what Zaina was hiding, but he knew this. She was more than just a thief, and something told him. Trouble was coming. Darren lived in the rust zone, where broken things came to rest and people who didn't want to be found stayed forgotten. The buildings were old, patched with scrap metal, pipes leaked, wires hung from ceilings like dead vines. But to Zaina, it was paradise. She woke up slowly on the couch, the smell of old metal and fried oil in the air. She blinked at the ceiling. It didn't shine. It didn't buzz. There were no guards shouting commands. No scanners. Just silence. Safe silence. In the small kitchen, Darren was cooking something on a dented stove. He didn't look surprised when she entered. "Still here?" he asked casually. Zaina hesitated. "I thought about leaving, but I have nowhere to go." Darren slid a plate toward her, scrambled eggs and something that looked like blue sausage. "Then sit. Eat. No stealing." This time she blinked. "You joke?" He gave a small grin. "Sometimes." Zaina sat down and ate carefully, still watching him from the corner of her eye. Later, Darren left for work. He gave her a warning before stepping out. "Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone unless you hear me knock 3 times. This part of the city isn't friendly." Zaina nodded. "Understood." When he left, she sat still for a long time. Then she stood and walked slowly through the apartment, touching the walls, the dusty shelves, the broken fan. She found a cracked mirror in the bathroom and froze. Her reflection looked worse than she expected. Her skin had gone dull. The silver glow in her eyes flickered. She pulled back her sleeve and touched the mark on her arm. It was dim now, fading. She whispered to herself, "Not much time left." Hours passed. When Darren returned, he found the apartment clean. The floor swept, the counters wiped, and Zaina asleep on the couch again, but this time curled up with a blanket, her breathing steady. He stared at her for a moment, then walked quietly to his workbench. He didn't ask questions yet, but he had them. Many. That night, over a shared meal, he finally spoke. "You're not from any registered colony. I checked." Zaina looked up, calm. "I know." "Then what are you?" She didn't speak at first. Then she answered with another question. "If I tell you, will you throw me out?" Darren leaned back. "Depends on what you are." Zaina stood and pulled the blanket away from her shoulder. She turned around and lifted her shirt slightly. There it was again, a glowing mark, etched into her skin just below the neck. Not drawn, not branded, grown. Darren stared. "That's military biotech," she nodded. "I was made, not born." Darren stood, suddenly tense. "You're a weapon." "I was supposed to be," Zaina said. "But I refused. I ran. I've been running ever since." He didn't sit down. "And the bread? Why didn't you just scan your identity? Ask for help?" Zaina's eyes glowed slightly. "Because if I scan my ID, it alerts the ones who created me. They'll come. Not to rescue me. To destroy me." Silence filled the room. Finally, Darren spoke. "I don't know if I should believe you." "You don't have to," she said. "I only needed 1 day of safety." She moved toward the door, but Darren didn't stop her. Not yet. Outside, in the shadows across the street, a small drone hovered silently. A red light blinked. It had no eyes, no heart, just a command. Track subject, Zaina Exile, 07. Back in the apartment, Darren sat at his bench. Zaina's words echoed in his mind. "I was made, not born." He looked at the old picture of his squad, military men and women, most now dead or missing. He had seen things, broken things, bioweapons that looked like people, but he had also seen fear in their eyes, the same fear Zaina had. He stood and walked to the door. Zaina sat just outside, knees pulled to her chest. He sat beside her. I don't know what you are, he said softly. But I know you didn't hurt anyone today. You could have. But you didn't. Zaina didn't speak. He continued. If you want to stay, I won't stop you. But I won't lie. This makes things dangerous for both of us. She finally looked up. Danger has been my only companion. But for the first time, I feel like I met someone who sees me as more than a tool. Darren nodded. Maybe I'm just too stupid to know better. Zaina gave a faint smile. And in that moment, something shifted. The fugitive wasn't running anymore, and the human wasn't alone. The next day began like any other. Darren left early for the scrapyard, leaving Zaina with simple instructions. Don't open the door. Stay out of sight. I'll bring food. She nodded, saying nothing. But deep inside, she knew time was running out. Her energy felt thin, her muscles slower. The glowing mark under her skin flickered now, like a dying signal light. But she wouldn't let him see her weaken. Not yet. While Darren worked, Zaina stayed inside. She sat near the window, half watching the broken street below. She saw people move through the rust zone, most of them dirty, tired, and minding their own business. No one noticed her. Still, she kept her head low and her ears sharp. Then something strange happened. Across the street, a boy ran into a trash barrel and fell. Zaina stood by reflex, ready to help, but stopped herself. Too much attention. She closed the curtain and backed away from the window. That's when she noticed it. A small red light, blinking on the ceiling. She stared at it, then climbed onto a chair to reach it. It was a tracker bug, the kind bounty hunters used, small, silent, deadly accurate. She crushed it in her hand and dropped the pieces in a water bucket to short it. Out! Her breathing was fast now. They had found her. That evening, Darren returned, arms full of food and parts. He kicked the door shut behind him, laughing. You won't believe what fell off a merchant's hover truck. 3 fusion rods and a half-roasted chicken. Zaina didn't laugh. He saw her face, pale, tense. What happened? He asked, setting the food down. She looked at him. They were watching. Darren's smile vanished. You're sure? She pointed to the water bucket. The fried tracker still sparked underwater. His jaw clenched. So they're coming. She nodded. Soon. After dinner, Darren tried to fix the apartment's busted heat coil while Zaina sat nearby, quiet. She looked weak, sweating slightly, even though the room was cold. You okay? He asked. She nodded. He didn't believe her. You look like hell. Still, she stayed silent. Darren set the tool down. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but if you collapse, I can't help you. Zaina stood slowly. Then I'll show you. She walked to the center of the room and turned her back to him. Then, without a word, she pulled her shirt off her shoulders. Darren froze. Her back wasn't just scarred. It glowed. A living symbol pulsed between her shoulder blades, lines of gold and silver twisting like circuitry. It wasn't ink, it wasn't burned, it was alive inside her skin. Darren stepped closer. What is that? A weapon signature, she said. I'm one of the last prototypes from the Sarian labs. Biowarrior class, genetically built. They said we were the perfect mix of mind and muscle. He stared. So you're military? No. I was their slave. My mind was my own. I refused orders during a trial run, refused to kill. That made me defective. She turned to him, slowly pulling her shirt back on. So they marked me, branded me as broken, and sent hunters. Darren shook his head. That's insane. Zaina sat down, eyes tired. Now you know. He rubbed his face, pacing the room. So what do I do with you? He asked. Zaina's voice was calm. You can turn me in. The bounty is high. You'll live like a king. He stopped. You think I'd do that? You'd be smart if you did. He leaned in. Maybe I'm not smart. Maybe I don't care about credits. Maybe I care more about people who don't deserve to be hunted for saying no. Zaina looked at him surprised. No one had ever said that to her. Not even the others who escaped the labs. Darren sighed. I don't know what this means. I don't know how much danger you bring, but you helped me fix the heat coil, and you made this dump feel less empty. She gave a faint smile. Then I'll stay. For now. But outside, in the shadows of a nearby rooftop, a metal-cloaked figure, crouched low. Through red optics it zoomed in on the window. Target found. Coordinates locked. Zaina Exile 07. Confirmed alive. The next morning was too quiet. No wind, no sirens, no shouting from the market, just stillness. Zaina woke up first. Her body ached. The glow on her back was brighter now, almost pulsing. Her time was running short, she could feel it in her bones. Every second she stayed here, she pulled Darren deeper into danger. She moved to the window and pulled the curtain back just slightly. Down the street, something wasn't right. No kids playing. No vendors yelling. Even the old junk bot that circled the alley every day was missing. That's when she saw it. A small shadow moved between two rooftops. Too fast. Too controlled. They had come. Darren woke to the smell of smoke. Zaina was heating water, her movements sharp and focused. She wasn't scared. She was preparing. He sat up. You always move this fast in the morning? They're here, she said. His smile faded. Are you sure? Zaina nodded. I saw one of them. Black armor. Lightstep tech. Probably bounty grade. Darren grabbed his coat. Then we run. No, she said. We talk first. You deserve to know the full truth. He paused. You haven't already told me everything? She sat on the floor, crossed her legs, and began. I wasn't the only one created. There were 12 of us. 12 projects trained for different types of missions. Assassins, infiltrators, battlefield brutes, and mind readers. I was number 7, designated Zaina 07, meant to be the perfect balance, fast, smart, adaptable. But when they gave us our first real kill orders, I refused. I looked at the target. An old man. No weapon, no threat. I told them no. She looked at the floor. They punished me by making me watch as the others obeyed. Then they tried to reprogram me. Darren's voice was quiet. But it didn't work? No, she said. So I escaped, I ran. That was 3 years ago. They never stopped hunting. Darren stood near the door, gripping a wrench tightly. I guess you were never just a thief. Zaina stood. No. But I've stolen a few lives along the way. Only to survive, he looked at her, and now I'm tired of running. Just then, a knock. Not 3 knocks like Darren used, just one. Heavy, slow, followed by a mechanical voice outside. Zaina 07, surrender. You are surrounded. You will not be harmed if you comply. Zaina's jaw tightened. They always lie. Darren stepped to the window. 3 figures stood in the street. Tall, armored, glowing red visors. One of them had a launcher on his back. Another carried a net gun. These weren't station police. They were biohunters. Zaina turned to Darren. If I leave now, they might spare you? He shook his head. Not a chance. They'll torch this place anyway. She looked at the back wall. There's an old sewer grate behind the furnace. Darren's eyes widened. You mean that sealed hatch in the floor? Yes. Help me. Break it now! They worked fast. Darren grabbed his cutting torch. Zaina used her bare hands, stronger than his tools. In 2 minutes, the bolts were loose and the hatch creaked open. A dark tunnel led down, full of steam and dripping pipes. Go, Darren said. I'll follow right behind. But just as Zaina climbed down, the front wall exploded. A hunter burst into the room. Red energy flashed from his hand, slamming Darren against the wall. Zaina screamed. She jumped up from the hatch, grabbed a pipe from the ground, and threw it. It struck the hunter's head, breaking the visor. The machine man stumbled back, sparks flying from his mask. Zaina ran to Darren and pulled him toward the hole. He coughed, blood in his mouth. I'm fine. Go. They dropped into the sewer just as a second blast tore through the ceiling. The tunnel below shook, but held. Hours later, they sat in a dark corner of the sewer system. Darren's arm was burned, but not broken. Zaina wrapped it gently, hands shaking. "This is my fault." He looked at her. "You saved me." She didn't answer. Then he said something she didn't expect. "I don't care what you were made for. You made a choice. You said no. You fought back." He took her hand. "I trust that more than any clean record." Her silver eyes filled with something she hadn't felt in years. Belief. Above them, the bounty hunters searched the wreckage, but Zaina-07 had escaped again. And this time, she wasn't running alone. The sewer was damp and dark. Pipes groaned overhead and the air smelled like rust and oil. Darren's injured arm rested in Zaina's lap as they sat on a broken pipe ledge deep underground. She wrapped his wound gently, her hand still steady, despite everything. Darren winced. "Guess this wasn't how you pictured your day." Zaina gave a soft smile. "You're lucky. The blast barely touched you. If it hit full force, I'd be soup," he finished with a grin. Her smile faded. "They'll come again." Darren's face turned serious. "Let them." Above ground, a bounty broadcast lit up across the sector. Hollow screens flashed red across every wall and market board in Station City 9. Wanted, Zaina-07 bioengineered weapon, escaped asset, status, active, high risk, reward, 80,000 credits, alive, 60,000, dead, 80,000 report sightings immediately, every. Drifter, scavenger, and bounty hunter now had a reason to search the rust zone, and not all of them cared about keeping her alive. Back in the tunnel, Zaina and Darren moved quietly. They followed the old pipeline that Darren used years ago to avoid patrols. It led to the old freight yard, long abandoned, full of shadows and hiding places. Zaina kept glancing back. Her ears picked up every sound. "I should go alone," she said. "It's me they want." Darren stopped walking. "No, you don't get to vanish now." "I'm serious." "So am I." She looked down. "I don't want you hurt again. And I don't want to go back to a life where I don't help people who deserve better," he said. "Especially not you." Suddenly, Zaina raised a hand. "Stop." They froze. Ahead, faint red lights blinked through the shadows. Darren whispered, "Is that?" "Tracker drones," she confirmed. 5 of them. Sweeping pattern. She scanned the walls, then pointed up. "There's an old tech chute above us. I can lift you." He looked up. "It's 15 feet high." She stepped forward. "Trust me." With almost no effort, she grabbed him by the waist and threw him upward like he weighed nothing. Darren grabbed the edge of the chute and climbed in. A second later, Zaina jumped up, landing beside him silently. Darren's mouth was open. "That was terrifying." Zaina's voice was soft. "That's what they made me for." Inside the chute, they crawled for several minutes. It led to a service room near the edge of the zone. Darren pushed the hatch open and peeked outside. "No patrols," he whispered. "Let's move." But Zaina didn't follow. She sat still, eyes shut tight. Her breathing was shallow. Her glow had dimmed. Darren touched her shoulder. "Zaina?" She opened her eyes slowly. "The energy. I used too much." Darren helped her out of the chute. She collapsed against the wall. Then, voices echoed nearby. Footsteps. Darren looked around. He spotted a broken vending unit nearby. Just enough cover. He helped Zaina behind it and drew his small plasma tool. Barely a weapon, but it was all he had. 2 bounty hunters stepped into the area. "Scanner says she's close," one of them growled. "Pulse signatures fresh." The other raised a thermal tracker. Zaina whispered, "Don't fight them. You'll die." Darren didn't move. "They'll take you," he said. "Then what, put you back in a cage, slice you open and build another version?" "I don't care," she whispered. "You need to live." He turned and looked into her silver eyes. I'd rather die standing beside you than live in a world where I let them take you. Zaina blinked. Something inside her cracked open. One of the hunters turned. I see movement. Zaina stood up, her body trembled, her skin began to glow again, brighter this time. Her eyes shined white. Darren stepped back. Zaina, what are you doing? She didn't answer. She stepped forward, her body radiating light. The hunter raised his weapon. Zaina raised her hand, and the air around her vibrated. The hunter fired. But the blast stopped midair. Frozen, Zaina clenched her fist. The energy around her pulsed, and the hunter's weapon exploded in his hand. He screamed and dropped to the ground. The second hunter turned to run, but Zaina was already in front of him. She placed a hand on his chest, a soft glow. Then he collapsed, unconscious. Darren stared. Zaina dropped to her knees, shaking. He rushed to her, held her close. What was that? He whispered. She looked at him, tears forming in her glowing eyes. I used the part of me I swore I never would. You saved us. But at what cost? In the shadows, another pair of red eyes watched. A third bounty hunter, smiling and recording. Target. Power spike confirmed. Full activation. Uploading now. It was dark when Darren and Zaina reached the old comms tower. The structure was half collapsed, rusted from years of acid rain, but its core transmitter still worked, just barely. Darren had fixed it months ago, hoping to sell it someday. Now, it was their last chance. Zaina leaned against the wall, her body shaking. Her glow had faded again after the fight. Every time she used her powers, it took something from her, like fire burning through her own bones. You shouldn't have brought me here, she whispered. They're watching this place. Darren was already at the console, typing fast. Exactly, that's the point. Outside the tower, bounty hunters were regrouping. The sector-wide alert had changed again. Zaina 07 status update, full activation confirmed. Power levels, Class S. Order changed, termination preferred. Bounty, 100,000 credits. Inside, the comm tower buzzed to life. The old signal dish moved, creaking as it realigned toward the orbital relay grid. Zaina opened her eyes. What are you doing? Calling them out, Darren said. To who? To everyone. He turned on the mic and spoke. This is Darren, Holt of Station City 9. I'm a citizen, a worker, not a soldier, not a rebel, just a man who's seen too much. His voice echoed through dusty speakers and bounced through the relay. I found someone broken and hunted. She didn't ask for power. She didn't want to fight. She only wanted a piece of bread and a quiet place to breathe. She's not a monster. She's not a weapon. He looked at Zaina. She's Zaina, and she is under my protection. Across the station, screens flickered. People in markets stopped to watch. Miners, traders, scavengers, all staring at a dusty human man standing beside a tired, glowing alien. Woman, if you come for her, you come through me, Darren continued. And if you hurt her, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you regret it. He leaned closer to the mic. You've been warned. Then he hit send. The signal launched into the sky. Zaina stared at him, stunned. You didn't have to do that. He turned to her, calm. Yeah, I did. They'll come for you now. I know. You've just told the whole galaxy I'm here. I know that too. She stepped closer, her voice soft. Why? Darren didn't hesitate. Because someone needed to say it. Someone needed to remind them that you're not alone anymore. Suddenly, alarms rang. Motion detectors picked up movement outside the tower. Zaina moved to the window. 4 bounty squads closing in fast. Darren grabbed a small blaster from his tool bag. We don't run this time. She looked at him, eyes glowing faintly. You'll die. He smiled. Better beside you than hiding behind a wall. And she stared at him. Then did something unexpected. She took his hand and pressed it to her chest. A soft light passed into his palm. What was that? She stepped back. A mark in my people's ways. You've claimed me. Now I've claimed you." He blinked. "So what does that mean?" "It means if I fall, the power I carry goes to you." He shook his head. "Zaina, I'm not a weapon." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe it's time Earth had one." Outside, hunters moved into position. Red lasers scanned the building. A voice barked through a speaker. "Surrender the asset and no harm will come to the human." Zaina stepped to the door. "I'm going out there." "No," Darren said. "We go together." They stepped outside, side by side. Light from the tower silhouetted them like ghosts in the mist. The bounty leader stepped forward. "You were warned." Darren raised his blaster. "So were you." Suddenly, every speaker in the city buzzed. Second signal interrupted. A female voice echoed through the streets. "This is Commander Relna of the Outer Worlds Council. The subject known as Zaina-07 is no longer classified as a weapon. She is under diplomatic protection as of this broadcast. Any act against her will be treated as an act of war." The bounty hunters froze. One by one, they dropped their weapons. The leader stared at Darren. "How?" Zaina stepped forward. "The signal Darren sent, it reached the right people. Not all of the galaxy is corrupt." Within minutes, the hunters retreated. Ships peeled off. The bounty link blinked offline. Zaina exhaled, her shoulders falling with exhaustion. "You just saved me again," she said. Darren looked at her. "No. We saved each other." That night, the comm tower went silent, but across the stars, her name spread, not as a weapon, but as a person, as someone worth saving, because one human chose to speak. It had been 1 week since the signal. 1 week since a simple human mechanic stood before the galaxy and said, "She is not a weapon. She is with me." Zaina was no longer hunted, but freedom didn't come easy. In a small, quiet district near the edge of Station City 9, Darren and Zaina lived in a new apartment. It wasn't big or fancy, just 2 rooms, reinforced walls, and a rooftop that looked out over the stars. Darren had already started rebuilding his workshop. The tools were scattered. The floor was dusty, but it felt like home. Zaina spent most of her time near the roof garden, hands in the soil, growing things, green things. Earth plants Darren had bought from smugglers. Life she could shape, life she could heal. No more hiding, no more running. Still, some nights, she couldn't sleep. She stood outside that night watching 2 moons rise above the towers. Her silver eyes reflected the light, calm but alert. The glowing mark on her back was dim now, no longer a warning, just a memory. Darren walked up behind her holding 2 steaming mugs. "Thought you might be cold." She took one gently. "Thank you. You've been quiet. I've never been this still before." He leaned on the railing beside her. "And how does it feel?" "Strange," she admitted. "Like I've landed somewhere, but I still don't believe it's real." He took a sip of his drink. "People talk about you now, you know." "I know," she said. "Some say you should lead. Others say you should disappear." Zaina smiled. "I've heard worse." He turned to her. "And what do you want?" Looked up at the sky. "I want to live, quietly, grow plants, fix broken things, maybe teach children how to defend themselves without becoming killers." Darren chuckled. Big dreams for someone who used to break bones with a glance. Looked at him. "You helped me remember I was more than what I was made to be." Suddenly, a message pinged from Darren's comlink, encrypted. Unknown origin. Zaina moved quickly, scanning the signal. "It's safe," she said. "Old military format. Someone's reaching out. Quietly." Darren opened the message. A simple text. "We've seen her. We remember her choice. If she calls, we will follow. Sister 10 of the Lost 12. Zaina froze. Her voice was barely a whisper. 10 is alive." Darren stared. "There were others like you?" 12 of us," she said slowly. "They said only 3 escaped. Now I know at least 1. More survived. He handed her the message. Sounds like you're not as alone as you thought. She sat down, the weight of hope settling gently on her shoulders. The next morning, the garden on the rooftop was full of light. Zaina knelt in the soil, planting seeds with care. Darren watched her from the doorway, leaning against the frame. You're glowing again, he said. I feel stronger now, she replied. Not from the mark, from peace. He stepped closer. So what happens next? Zaina stood and wiped her hands. I wait. I live. And if someone else like me calls for help, we answer. We? She reached for his hand. You and I. Together. That's how this story ends. Not in blood, but in roots. In the distance, ships moved across the sky. Some carried weapons, some carried supplies, and some carried secrets. But for now, none of them came for her, because the galaxy had heard the message. She was not a weapon. She was a choice. A reminder that even something built to destroy could learn to protect. And even a tired human from the rust zone could start a movement with nothing but his voice. Because in the end, hope didn't arrive with an army. It arrived with a loaf of bread and a hand held out to a stranger.